Well, 8 South Africans stuck at Dubai International Airport have landed in Johannesburg. They are under quarantine right now for 14 days as per COVID-19 rules. Now, government says it will help South Africans come back home provided they have a return flight booked. Heidi Jacos is following developments for us. She joins us now live. So, Heidi, we know that the South Africans touched down earlier, but first tell us about the circumstances they were encountering at Dubai International, how long they were there for, and how long they waited to actually get official word that they can come back.
So, Shahan, we understand that 8 South Africans were stuck at Dubai airport for several days. They were transit passengers, and due to the fact that across the world we are seeing many countries going into lockdown due to the coronavirus, they were stuck at the airports. They then reached out to DIRCO and the South African government here at home to try and see if they could get away to come back to South Africa. But given the fact that South Africa is also in lockdown and no flights, passenger flights are allowed into the country or out of the country, they were in a bit of a situation where they were starting to sleep on the floor at the airport, and they were starting to get quite desperate. We do understand that the 8 South Africans, though, purchased a return ticket back to South Africa via Emirates, and it's understood that a passenger aircraft that was carrying cargo was able to accommodate 8 South Africans in that flight, and they landed in South Africa at about 3 o'clock this afternoon. We do understand it was 9 passengers in total, but the 9th person was a Zimbabwean national that was not allowed back into the country, given the fact that he did not have the right paperwork and he's not a South African. So we do understand that those 8 South Africans were extremely desperate. They were, facing real trouble at the Dubai airport, given the fact that they couldn't go anywhere. They couldn't go back into Dubai, and they were unable to come back into South Africa. But fortunately, they have managed to come back home, and they will be in quarantine for 14 to 21 days. We're unsure of the exact number, but we understand it might be 14 days.
And this, of course, one of the quarantine facilities identified across the country for many other South Africans who will ultimately return.
Yes, exactly, and I think it's quite interesting where we are standing. We are standing at Eskom's Academy of Learning. We understand that there is, in fact, a hotel here, a 5-star hotel, I'm told, where there's also wild animals in here. There's zebras and impala, we understand. So these 8 South Africans have it quite nice here in Midrand, but we do understand that they will be here. They'll be based here for 14 days. It is a government entity, and that's most probably what government has identified as perhaps one of the quarantine sites, given the fact that the South Africans that came back from Wuhan stayed at the Ranch Hotel. So perhaps government is trying to identify its own facilities to isolate the South Africans that come back from across the globe that are stranded. So it's evidently clear that they are trying to identify their own buildings and isolation sites. And we understand the South Africans are inside. We saw the bus even going out. So they've offloaded all their luggage and the passengers as well, the South Africans that will be staying here for a number of days until they are clear to go back home.
And Heidi, just of course for the benefit of those watching and have family members abroad who are also stuck somewhere, is our government going to help them get back?
So, Shahan, I've been seeing so many people sending me messages and tweeting and asking how they can perhaps get away to come back home, given the fact that they are stranded. We have South Africans in Peru, we have South Africans in Italy, South Africans in the US and in the UK. We've also been told that there are some South Africans in the DRC that have been separated from their families. So, from our understanding, DIRCO has set up a command center where there are email addresses and telephone numbers that these South Africans can contact, and they will be assisted by DIRCO depending on how DIRCO can assist. DIRCO is saying if you can get onto a flight and you have the funds and the means to do so, get onto that flight and come back to South Africa. You will be allowed to disembark if you are a South African, and those who are of course stranded and unable to do so, if you are students or you don't have the financial means, DIRCO says that they will be able to try and assist in some kind of way. But the first point is for South Africans to approach that command center and approach those email addresses and that telephone number to get any kind of assistance, and hopefully they'll be able to come back home.
All right, we're going to leave it right there. Heidi Jacos is in Midrand.